Hi, I'm Jessica Powell, the co-founder and CEO of Audioshake, and today I'm going to talk to you about the future of music, in which we're going to be interacting with audio in much more creative, immersive, and interactive ways than ever before. So over the past 10 years, we've all become pretty accustomed to working with video and image, editing, stitching, all these things without any professional tools or know-how. So if we just think about social media, right? Like, I can make a video of myself talking as a fish, or I can shoot sparks from a flower. But if we think about audio, like, what can you do with audio? Well, you can do a dance to it, and we can do duets with each other, all of which is really fun, but when you compare it to the talking fish and the flower, it feels a little bit lacking, which is actually really surprising because on some social networks, music represents up to 60% of the content. Luckily, that's about to change, and that's thanks in part to something called stems. So the easiest way to think about what stems are is as the parts of a song, so the vocal part or the drum part. For example, this is the full recording of a song, or the full mix. And this is the vocal stem of that same song. And already today, audio professionals create tons of things with these stems. So if you're ever watching a movie and you hear music, most likely you're hearing the instrumental, because the sound editor didn't want you to be distracted from what the actors were saying. So they didn't use the vocal stem, they used all the other stems. Or a remix. A remixer could take this vocal stem, combine it with a totally new melody, and reimagine that song. And for a whole bunch of different reasons, us, meaning the non-experts, don't have access to these stems. In other words, we get the full Lego kit already built, but we don't get to play with the Legos. If we're listening to a song on Spotify or we're participating in a TikTok challenge, we're listening to the full mix of the song most of the time. But what if you could separate any song from any point in time in history, no matter how it was recorded or whether the stems exist anyway? Because one of those things about the Legos that I just described is they don't always exist. Old songs, the way they were recorded, there are no stems. New songs should have stems, but a lot of times they have problems. Files go missing, the stems are mislabeled, they don't add up to the fill mix, and so forth. What if none of that mattered? You could just pull apart the song from the 1920s or from 2022. We started Audioshake to tackle this challenge. We use AI to open up songs to new kinds of creative uses and monetization. And we train on thousands and thousands of stems to teach our AI what the different parts of a song sound like, and then separate them. And while this research and work is being done by several of the big tech companies, we're the only ones who have actually reached commercial level quality. So our stems and instrumentals have been used in movies and commercials, TVs, spatial audio mixes, remixes, by the different music labels and publishers. Let me show you how this works. So the producer Jackstone, who co-produces work with the likes of Diplo and Major Lazer and others, came to us because he lost one of his project files. And this is actually super common with producers because they work with a ton of files, a whole bunch of different versions of their song. So he uploaded the song to Audioshake, and this is what that experience looked like. If you're riding, I know that you're vibing. Tell me if you're riding, I know that you're vibing. Tell me if you're riding, I know that you're vibing. And we could, if we went further in the song, also isolate the bass, but you're about to hear this song reimagined in a ton of different ways, so I'm going to stop there. Now, Jackstone did this, he got his stems, he went off to create his remix. Great. But what I want to talk about next is how we move from this world of one-off expert experiences, which will continue to exist, to expand the access to these Legos, these stems, to millions of people around the world. And there's a huge ecosystem springing up of companies and experiences powered by AI stems that are going to bring us entirely new music experiences across areas like social media, education, gaming, and much more. So with Jackstone's permission, we gave those stems to some of the companies that we're partnering with to make music more creative and expressive. So let's start with social media and remixes. So there are tons of apps and sites out there for remixing. But what no one's really managed to crack yet is how to bring the original artist and the remixer closer together, which is a real shame, because remixes really start as an homage to the original work. And remixes can drive significant attention and new traffic to the original recording. So the blockchain streaming platform, Audius, is taking a different approach. So they're allowing indie artists to upload their songs and their stems so remixers can get them directly, create remixes, send them back to the artist. The artist can co-sign. There's even monetization features so that fans can contribute to the original artist's success. And thanks to an upcoming integration with Audioshake, indie artists will be able to get their stems even easier than before. Now, in the growing field of AR and VR and spatial audio, you want to be able to place sound objects in different places in space. So for example, the vocals over here and say the drums over here, just like we hear audio in the real world. It's not all in one place. So MiniBeats is a collaborative music video app that uses fun AR effects. It's essentially an interactive musical camera that uses stems and responsive visuals to really bring a video to life. So take a look.
I know that you're vibing. Tell me if you're riding. I know that you're vibing. Tell me if you're riding. I know that you're vibing.
So it's super fun. And Mike is actually here at Code, the CEO, if you want to learn more about it. Now let's talk about education. So I remember being in high school, sitting on my bed, trying to pick out bass lines from my favorite songs to learn how to play the bass. But it's actually really hard because there's a lot of other instruments playing at the same time. So what if you could actually just isolate any instrument, or maybe play along with an entire band except for the instrument that you're playing so that you're like the rock star in the band? So this is exactly what Green Day did. They used Audioshake to create the stems for one of their iconic songs. They then uploaded all those stems to TikTok, minus the guitar stem, and all of their guitar-playing fans could then play along. What if you could make a tutorial of any song in the world so that students were learning to play not just the songs that their parents and their teachers wanted them to play, but also their favorite songs? Like, I would have stayed in piano way longer if that had happened. Here's a tutorial using Jackstone's Audioshake stems for the drum kit by the music education platform Melodics.
Tell me if you're riding. I know that you're vibing. Tell me if you're riding. I know that you're vibing. Baby, let me put it on you. Put it on you. Baby, I'ma put it on you. Put it on you. Baby, let me.
Now, gaming. We can't talk about music without talking about gaming. Gamers consume more music than the average consumer, but the actual music and gaming experience is pretty limited. Stems can make it so much more interactive and dynamic. So imagine you're a player, and you're going into a cave, and the whole song all of a sudden drops off, and all you're left with is the bass. So like, ba-dum, 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 a little foreboding. And then all of a sudden, the drums kick, the dragon drops out, and the fight begins, right? And not only could you do that, you can do that today already with a set of stems, but what if you could do that for thousands and thousands of songs? Because AI stems are standardized, that means the data and the labeling is consistent across millions of tracks. And that allows you to work with it programmatically in a way that you really couldn't do today with the few stems that do exist. Not only that, it would save rights holders millions and millions of dollars for trying to go track down the existing stems, again, if they exist, or try and convert multi-tracks to stems. So all of a sudden, it opens up a huge library of music for game developers. And a company that's working to tackle that is Weave. So in this demo you're about to see, they use the Jackstone Audioshake stems, and their music engine adapts the song to different gaming environments. You're going to hear the songs, you all notice the song's beats per minute increase, but if you pay close attention, you might hear other changes happening at the stem level in response to the player's actions. finally, I think gaming is going to make it much easier for millions of people to all of a sudden start playing with music in ways that they don't today. I think a lot of us find music creation really intimidating if we didn't have a formal education in it. So the company Pixelinks is building a music metaverse, and one of their games is called Soundblocks. It's essentially a UGC game where players collect stems, and then they use those to build musical sculptures that can then be programmed into mini games and other experiences. So here, the player is going to get Jackstone stems and imagine a new version of that song while playing along with blocks. It's all really fun, right? And some of this stuff is live, some of it's about to launch in the next few months. Just imagine what this is going to look like in a year or two. And what's really important is this be done in partnership with artists and rights holders, because I think this can represent incredible new revenue streams for them. So if there's anything that I hope that you can take away from today, it's that we're going to be moving into a world where we're able to interact with audio with the same kind of fun, playful ease that we have today with other kinds of media. And who best to kind of reflect on the evolution of audio and the use of stems than one of the godfathers of hip hop, co-founder of Public Enemy, and the legendary production team, the Bomb Squad, Keith Shocklee. Keith is a legend, but we're not even going to talk about that because we don't have that much time. We're going to get right into it.
Good.
Okay. All right. I thought we would talk about one song, Fight the Power, which I'm sure most of you know. You just heard it. And so we could go a little bit deeper on just that song. So when I first heard Fight the Power, I was a teenager. And then I just heard it, and I was just so immediately taken by the energy of the song and the lyrics. And I had no idea back then. I didn't know anything about music history. I didn't know anything about music production. And it was only when I started to go deeper into those areas that I was like, whoa, the production on this song is insane, right? Like the amount of sampling and layering that happens is wild. And so I thought we'd start there, and that could be interesting to people. Why'd you sample? Like, what was wrong with traditional instruments? Like, why'd you do all that sampling?
Well, at that time, we didn't know nothing about production either. It was brand new. We sampled because coming from a DJ world, we like to cut up the best part of the song, which was always the break. And it was cheaper than having a band in the studio. So we saved a lot of money until later we got caught for sampling problems. But it was just easy, and that was the actual culture of hip hop. You know, you just took the best parts of songs. And we took a lot of parts from songs.
There's something like, I looked this up, there's at least, I think there's like, if you look on who sampled, it's like 20, 21 samples. Yeah. I think, and there's no way Keith is gonna tell us, it's probably like 50. Like poker face.
There's a lot.
Yeah. And what about, so Fight the Power, how did that start? Did it come from a sample? Did it come from an idea? What was the inspiration?
Came from an idea that Spike Lee wanted to do that we thought was whack. He wanted to do Lift Every Voice and Sing. Chuck said, nope, we're going to do this song. And just to come up with the song was just a thing that just happens in the studio. We was already in the zone doing the albums, Ice Cubes, everybody. So when we did this, I actually came up with the original groove of a bass line, which was a sample, because we don't have musicians. But what we did was, what everybody liked was a wall of sound. Instead of most people take a 2-bar loop and they run it through the song, no, we'll take a sample of a bass line that we took from, especially that bass line was, you want to go further? We can go further where that came from? Was okay. James Brown, Hot Pants Road. But it had all this other stuff in it, like drums, keyboard lines, all that.
So you needed Audioshake.
So we needed Audioshake then. It made my job a lot easier if I had that. So what I had to do was filter out all the high frequencies and the mid frequencies so we could just zone in on the bass. That takes a minute. It's not easy to do. So, and then getting the right rhythm so it feels kind of just about a bass, and then we got to EQ it again when we add more bass, more mid bass on it, so it just, all you hear basically is a bass line.
And then after the bass, what comes?
After for that particular song, after the bass line was the drum loop.
So you got rid of the drums from the original.
Got
put
rid
in
of the
new
drums, put in new drums, and that was a sample, which the basic sample was another James Brown record, Funky Drummer. So we sample that a lot. So we take Funky Drummer, take a 2-bar, a 1-bar pattern, loop it over and over, change it, but then we had to go a little further so it wouldn't feel like it's Funky Drummer, programmed with drum machines, bass, kick and snare, and hi-hats on top of it to give it a different rhythm.
If you wanted to create these stems right now, I would give them to you.
There you go.
Yeah,
I just call you.
That's right. But if you wanted to create them, go back, like, how would you, first of all, this was created in '89, so these are physical analog tapes,
It's analog tapes, yeah. So if we had to create these without your program, I had to go to a studio. First, I got to find a studio that can hold a 2-inch tape machine, which is kind of rare, and then take piece by track, which that song right there is a 48-track song. So usually we do 24 tracks, which is standard, 1 2-inch tape machine. So we got two 2-inch tape machines locked together. And then I got to figure out, and then first we got to read the track sheet and figure out, because our track sheet looks crazy, looks like a little kid scribbled on it. So, and then one by one pick those songs. But going back to 1989, you got to make sure the song is in good condition. So we had to do stuff like we call baking the tape, so you can, so the tape
you get one shot at that.
Get one shot at that, so the tape won't shred after being over 30 years old, coming, being played off a 2-inch tape. So that's basically impossible unless you keep it in good condition in a vault where it's kind of like cool. And you talking about 30 years? Who's going to do that? I can ask Universal, they got it. But I mean, it's that. So that's, it's kind of impossible to do that today. Then, you got to find 2-inch tape machines.
Yeah.
There's one in Nashville.
So what do you make of all this? Like AI stems, the
AI
whole
stems
thing?
is incredible, especially for artists like Jackson when he lost his stuff, or artists that lose their, especially old artists that they want to do remixes to. You can separate the parts, which is from a I was calling it a 2-track mix that we would do. That's where you hear your waves or your MP3s is all mixed down to 2 tracks. So now I don't have to go back to a studio and find some old tape that's probably crazy and just give it to you. You can separate it, and I'm in the house. I can do a new remix. Do a new remix, which is crazy. And I think when you can do that as a producer, now you can put your own, as we do now, put your own music to it. But especially those old songs, it's still, it's hard. But you guys at Audioshake, man, that's why I fucks with you. Like, this is hot. This is hot. And it's a great thing. I think a lot of what it can do for producers now is I'm hoping that one day that they will get credit and monetize that their music is the remix, which turns it into a new song. Because basically we had that issue with a Vanessa Williams project we did.
I think that's, probably don't have time to go into it now, but I think that's a super interesting area is if you can also use stems. Because what happens today is like the remix gets made, the remixer didn't have permission to use those stems.
No.
And then it gets uploaded to SoundCloud. It's usually not detected because people do things. They shift the beats per minute, the BPM, they do kinds of stuff, and
we do a lot of stuff.
Doesn't get detected by content recognition, and then sometimes it goes viral. Yeah. And the original artist isn't getting paid for it unless someone spots it. Yeah. And the remixer doesn't get paid for it because they never had permission to do it. And so I think it's so cool. We're not there yet at all.
We're not there yet.
But if we could get totally. But if you could get to the point where you could have stems for artists who want them to have their work pulled apart, that remixers could use that they could create new works, that could be tracked across the ecosystem. Like 30 it depends on the estimates, but somewhere between like a quarter to 30% of the content on some social networks is reused or recreated content. Like most of that's not monetized.
Yeah.
And so if you could use stems actually as a way to track, like that would just be massive for artists.
Because, you know,
and cool for remixers because you can come up with an
great.
arrangement.
And yeah, anybody. So there's a house music guys are remixing records from the 70s and putting new music under it, just snatching the vocals off. That's kind of crazy.
They're telling us to wrap up, and they do it with a smiley face. It's like the most passive aggressive, like you're over. So,
I can talk for days.
I know.
I didn't do that.
We'll keep back going backstage. Thank you so much for everything and for everything you've done for music. Thank you for all of you for being here and a part of this. And for those of you who are around tonight, Keith is DJing the party, so please come out.